This lecture will cover Chapter 15, which deals with retailers, wholesalers, and direct marketers. There are 8 objectives for this chapter. 1. Explain the wheel of retailing. 2. Discuss how retailers select target markets. 3. Show how the elements of the marketing mix apply to retailing strategy. 4. Explain the concepts of retail convergence and scramble merchandising. 5. Identify the functions performed by wholesaling intermediaries. 6. Outline the major types of independent wholesaling intermediaries and the appropriate situations for using each. 7. Compare the basic types of direct marketing and non-store retailing. 8. Describe how much the internet has altered the wholesaling, retailing, and direct marketing environments. Now let's kind of talk about the basics of what retailing is. Retailing are the activities involved in selling merchandise to the ultimate consumer. So whatever I'm doing as a manufacturer to get my product through retailing or other folks is called retailing. There are large and small retailers that perform this major channel activity. And what this does is this creates utilities in terms of time, place, and ownership. And then lastly, retailers act as both customers and also as marketers in their channels because they're actually both buying product and also trying to market product throughout the channel. Over time, retailing has evolved. In the beginning, you had what was called the general store. And a general store had a wide range of product. It actually many times operated in isolated communities. Then you had the rise of supermarkets in the early 1930s, and this was in response to consumers' demand for lower prices. Then you had the discount stores that evolved in the 1950s and 1960s, and these stores offered lower prices but at the same time had less services to offer. Then in the 1960s, you had the rise of the convenience store, and those helped satisfy customers' needs for convenience and also for speed. And then in the 1980s and 1990s, you had the off-price retailers which came into vogue, and those stores sold brand name merchandise but at lower prices. For example, someone like TJ Maxx. The wheel of retailing is a hypothesis that each new type of retailer gains a competitive foothold by offering lower prices than current suppliers charge, the result of reducing or limiting services. Now, one of the interesting things about this is that over time, that new retailer becomes more established, and as they become more established, they add in more services, and prices gradually do increase. Retailing strategy is the key decisions that retailers have to make and how they're going to go to the market. The first one deals with selecting a target market, and then they also talk about how they're going to develop this retailing mix that's going to best meet the needs of that target market. There are 7 key areas for the retail strategy. They are merchandising, promotion, location distribution, store atmosphere, pricing, customer service, as well as the target market. Let's talk about each one in a little more detail. First of all, with the target market, you're talking about the size of the market you're going after and also the profit potential of the market. Now, these things need to factor in the competition also that you'll be competing with when it comes to that particular target market. You then need to consider the customer service strategy, which is the goal is to attract and retain target customers to increase sales and profits. Now, some services that retailers could provide that would separate itself apart in terms of a customer service strategy are maybe enhanced comfort through lounges or complimentary coffee, convenient restrooms, childcare services for customers, and virtual assistance programs. If you've ever been to the IKEA store, which is in the Cincinnati area, it has both a cafeteria and childcare services for customers. Another factor is the pricing strategy. And prices reflect a retailer's, or must reflect the retailer's overall marketing objectives and policy. And they also can affect the consumer's perception of that particular retailer. So, for example, if I walk in and I see a place that has higher prices, then I'm going to expect that the merchandise will be of a higher quality. Conversely, if I go in and I see prices a little lower, then I'm going to understand this is a discount retailer and the quality might not be as if I'm paying more money for it. Now, another key part of pricing, or a couple key concepts to keep in mind, are markups and markdowns. So markup is the amount a retailer adds to the cost of a product to determine its selling price. So it's kind of like my profit that I put in there, the pad. Now, in some situations, they will mark down a product, which is the amount by which a retailer reduces the original selling price of a product in order to make it sale if it's still on the shelf and I need to free up some shelf space. Location, or the distribution strategy, also is very important for retail location, and that will depend on a couple different factors. One is the type of merchandise that's being sold, also the financial resources for that retailer, as well as overall characteristics for the target market, as well as overall site availability. Now, there are different types of locations in terms of shopping centers, for example. You might have the traditional, like a strip mall or a neighborhood shopping center. You might have something like the regional shopping center, like a Dayton Mall or Fairfield Commons. And maybe around that you might have some additional retail stores. Those are called a power center. And then a recent phenomenon is something called a lifestyle center, which is a combination of shopping, maybe some benches, some greenway, combined with might be some type of entertainment, live entertainment, could be a movie theater. And that's a new concept that many locations, cities, communities are now going to. Promotional strategy is also important for retailers. And promotional strategies help retailers attract shoppers and build customer loyalty. And many national chains purchase advertising in print and broadcast media in order to do this. Now, also within the promotional strategy, salespeople play a very important role in terms of suggesting things that can be bought, also adding on additional service potentially that the particular retailer might offer. And poor service can also influence a customer's attitudes about a retailer in terms of against the particular retailer. So salespeople or personal selling is very important potentially in the retailing strategy. And then you have the overall store atmosphere. So this is a combination of physical characteristics and amenities that contribute to a store's image. For example, if you go into a Macy's, you get one feel in terms of you walk in and you have the nice music playing, you smell the cologne, versus when you first walk into a Walmart and you're being greeted by someone and you have a wide variety of items. There's two very different atmospheres in terms of what they're trying to create in those two different types of stores. Now, one of the things that's happened with the result of increased competition is the battle for shelf space. So you've had, this is a result of the spreading of new products and variations on existing ones has increased the competition of shelf space. So in order for folks to continue to be competitive, you have this battle of shelf space. Now, because margins are very small in the retailing industry, there's a lot of competition. So in order for you to get on my shelf, because in order to put someone on my shelf, I got to take someone off, and profits and margins are so low that some retailers might require a new manufacturer to pay a sliding allowance, which here is defined as a non-refundable fee that many retailers receive from manufacturers to secure shelf space for new products. So here's a question for you. Do you think the idea of sliding allowances are ethical? Many folks feel they're not. Others feel that's just part of business. What do you think? Now let's talk about the basis for categorizing different retailers. And there are basically 5 different ways to classify retailers. You can classify them by shopping efforts, services provided, product lines, location, as well as form of ownership. Let's talk about form of ownership first. So you have different types of ownership. You have corporate chains that are owned by the corporation. You have independent retailers, which generate about $4.7 trillion in retail sales in most recent year. Okay, and these typically have advantages in terms of being a little more friendly, as well as personalized service. And then you have classification by shopping effort, and then we're talking in terms of like a convenience retailer, which focuses marketing, appeals on having accessible locations, extended store hours, rapid checkout services, adequate parking facilities. Then you have also what are called shopping stores, which offer potential customers a chance to compare pricing and assortment and quality levels. Example of that would be a store like Ethan Allen. You have, again, talking about classification of shopping efforts, you have specialty retailers. These are stores that combine carefully defined product lines, services, and reputation, like a Nordstrom's or Dillard's would be an example of that. The next one I want to talk about is the classification of services, which is the classification system consists of 3 different types of retailing types. So you have the self-service, which would be like a mini mart, a self-selection, we go in and pick the items yourself like a Kroger, or a full-service retailers, as if you go into a place like Macy's. That would be an example of a full-service retailer. You also have classification by product line. There would be, for example, maybe a what they call a label specialty, the practice of handling a specific narrow line of merchandise. Example of that would be something like Lady Foot Locker. You then have classification by product lines in terms of a limited line retailer. So maybe they offer a large assortment of products within one product line or a few related lines. Example of this might be IKEA. You then have general merchandise retailers, also that kind of fall in this area, stores that offer a wide range of products and product lines and stocking them in some depth, like a Walmart or a Target. The variety stores offer extensive range and assortment of low-priced merchandise. Now, those are actually kind of declining in popularity a little bit. So you have really different kinds of department stores, which actually can kind of fall in this area too. You have mass merchandisers that also will fall in this area also. And the last classification I want to talk about by retail transaction. And this is in terms of most retail transactions occur in stores. However, non-store retailing is used for generating orders for both consumer and B2B marketers. Now here is an interesting figure that's actually included in your book in figure 15.3, which really talks about the importance of having that go-between or that middle step of the middleman. If you didn't, as mentioned in the last chapter, you'd have to go to every manufacturer trying to buy a particular product. Because you have that person in between you, because you have the wholesaler in there, it makes for the process to be that much more efficient. Now, as I mentioned, there are other ways that you can directly contact or sell product to consumers. One is called direct marketing, where there's a contact between you and the consumer, and this is a way of generating sales, information requests, or store website visits. It could be a direct mail piece that many folks get in the mail. So there's a variety of ways you can actually do direct marketing. There's specifically direct mail, which I just mentioned, postcards, letters, catalogs. It's good in terms of I really can do a good job of targeting a particular market, and from a response rate standpoint, it can be a challenge, even though it just says that it has a high response rate. In this case, a good rate for a direct mail piece, if you say on 100 pieces, might be 2, 3 out of 100. And you see here some other potential things you can do with direct response retailing. You can order merchandise by mail, visit their website, a variety of ways you can do that. Through TV. You have telemarketing. Folks will call you at home trying to sell a product to you, so that's a direct contact. You have internet retailing nowadays where folks will use the internet in order to sell your product through their websites. It is a great way of minimizing your inventory, keeping a little of it. Many people are doing this, but you still have your traditional brick and mortar stores too that help complement folks who are on the web. You have automatic merchandising. So an example of this would be a vending machine. So when you're at Sinclair and you were to use a vending machine, that's an example of automatic merchandising. Nowadays, you're starting to see through technology advances, they can sell anything from the traditional can of pop and the bag of chips to salad and to fruit. And that sums up Chapter 15, Retailers, Wholesalers, and Direct Marketers.